Hey, and welcome to the Change Leaders Playbook, bringing you all things delivery and leadership in a podcast. So, do you work in the consulting space? And have you noticed a shift in customer expectations, potentially due to the evolution of AI? Now, my next guest is a prolific founder and experienced consultant returning to the show to discuss his new venture, helping consultants to achieve more for their clients by productizing their services. Now, with that, I'd like to welcome again Ikum Kandola. Ikum, welcome to the show again. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
All right. So, you know what? The last time we spoke, I had a great time and I was hoping you'd come back. And here you are, which is great. So, thanks for giving us your time. You talked to us about your startup at the time. And I cannot believe it. You're back once again with a new venture. And you've kind of gone full time into this venture. And I just want to delve deep into what that is, what your journey was, and how that helps people in your target audience. So, with that, let's just start talking about the AX. What is the AX, and who does it help?
Yeah, perfect. So the AX actually stands for the Accelerated Experience, and it's a platform for consultancies to productize their consulting. So obviously this sounds like a lot of jargon to a lot of people, but what we're seeing is basically AI is accelerating consulting so much that it's quite difficult to charge for time-based services at the moment. So what we've done with our platform is enable people to create AI assessments, which means that clients can take the assessment anytime. Consultants will pick up the work accelerated with AI. And overall, just the whole experience is just much, much faster and also much more controlled. So it makes it easier for consultancies to charge based on outcomes rather than time-based services.
How did you derive that as a problem that needed to be solved? I mean, I've got similar background to you, and I certainly have some examples, but it'd be really good to hear from you.
Yeah, so when we actually started Theax, this was actually before we actually saw this problem in industry. Like as a consultant, I'm still quite young and junior, so it was actually my other co-founder called Robert Streeter who actually came up with the whole concept of productized, or the idea for the application for productized consulting. And he'd been an experienced consultant for much, much longer than me, 20 plus years. And he founded his own consultancy. So I actually came in as more of like a technical side when I started. And he had the vision for productization based on what had been done with AI. The first time I met him, we weren't planning to found the business at the start. He actually asked me to build an application just for his consultancy. And we did that, me and my co-founder, we did that just for a bit of cash flow with our last business. It took us about 2 weeks, but Rob was so impressed by the application and we thought it was, so incredible what has been unlocked through AI, that he had the idea for the business. And we just went from there, really.
Have you got any examples then of how any clients that you have at the moment and how the solution is starting to actually service and help them to help their clients as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I can give you a really good example. So just last week, one of our companies, one of our clients, they did an engagement with a government agency, which I can't name. But I do know that they were able to, one consultant was able to assess over 1,000 people within a week. Typically what would happen if they weren't using this kind of AI technologies is the consultant would have to book meetings with lots of different people and interview them, take notes, and then analyze all the stuff. But because the consultant has set it up in a productized way using our platform, they were able to just create one assessment and then send that to 1,000 people who could complete it, over the week whenever they want. And then a lot of that, like as well as being able to complete it, a lot of the data was able to be analyzed very, very fast with AI. So like this is something that would just be unthinkable to do manually before our product came in.
So essentially your product was able to enable them to reach out to multiple people simultaneously, gather lots of information, make sense of it, and come out with recommendations or actionable insights from it.
Yeah, exactly that. But this is a bit more like detailed. when you get into it. So if you think of like a typical survey, the problem is
Yeah.
that people can answer like multiple choice questions or linear scale questions, and that can easily be analyzed. But it really breaks down when there's long answer questions. For example, if you're doing consulting, for example, like you're a GDPR consultant, you might have to ask somebody like how a database is managed, and it can be very complex set of information that you wouldn't be able to just do from like a multiple choice question. So what we've done is, because of AI, we're now able to analyze long answer questions as well. And we don't just analyze it using the AI. We enable consultants to build maturity models. And then based on the maturity models, all of the analysis is done. And then just basically adds an extra layer of knowledge. So the consultant is not just, relying directly on AI.
No, that makes good sense. And what I find then is there's a lot of analysis time that is no longer required. And I suspect for your clients who are the consultants, or they can, or even you directly, you can almost sell to their customers the reduction of time and the waste and potential use of time, which makes it more efficient cost wise and even time wise for everybody, really. Is that pretty much one of the core benefits of utilizing the services that you're developing?
I think at the moment we're still in the early stages of AI. I think some people think AI is overhyped, but I think it's actually, we're at the very early stages of AI still. So the fact that we've built the whole platform and built AI into it is really just a start. In a few years, like once generative AI improves, models improves, I think it will go from just an efficiency increase to an actual increase in quality as well. For example, the way that a consultant can analyze something now is probably like a little bit better than AI. But in the future, when AI really improves, it can take that up to a whole different level. I think on top of that, the fact that people can assess so many people in one go, it's not just like an efficiency increase of like 50%, 70%. It must be, thousands, tens of thousands of percent. It's kind of like how before people would do lectures, and people would have to attend in person. Then video came out, YouTube came out, and then suddenly that can be scaled to infinity, really. And it's the same with consultancy, using productization of consultancy as well.
And that makes sense. I suppose as well, it's important because you're still making sense of data and insight that's specific to that customer, and therefore it's expansive, but it's also relevant because it only relates to that specific customer, and we can get insights from it quicker, sooner rather than later. So that gives it value as well, I would imagine. Is that about right?
Yeah, definitely. I think before AI came in, you didn't really get that personalized insight. As I said, with like, I mean, unless you did it in person, but if you were to do a survey or something, all of that data would just be lost. Um, but yeah, it definitely enables much more detailed insights for specific customers. 100%.
Cool. So am I right in saying that your target market then are consultancies, or are they, or just before I keep going, so I've got totally got it right. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's completely correct. Yeah, consultancies, SME
Mm,
consultancies in particular. So
yeah,
I mean, we would have loved to have closed the big four, but what we're doing at the moment is much more for the smaller like boutique companies, and it actually kind of enables them
yeah.
to compete with the big four as well, because it's just too much red tape in the big four. So only really like this, we found the smaller the company, the quicker they can adopt the product, and also they need to change their business model as well. So yeah,
Mm.
smaller companies actually have quite a big advantage, we found.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking similarly because the individuals that are more likely to want this are those who wants to service their customers but don't have the resources or manpower to do so, where they would probably need 20 people that can do it with one person maybe, and therefore they can now compete with bigger players because of the tool that you're providing. So I think that that's if that's the case, which it sounds like it really is, that's really useful, very valuable to them. So that brings to my mind, what are you then seeing? I know you've started on the journey of the past 12 months or so, with this new sort of venture. What are you seeing in terms of inefficiencies around how consultancies work? I'm using this, right, because I want to get some benefits from you and see if there's anything that I can agree with based on my experience, and also maybe things that I can learn from to help me and other people in similar roles to me. What are you seeing in terms of areas that are inefficient that actually could potentially be either improved but by AI tools, or just improved really generally by thinking differently and thinking smart?
I think in the market at the moment, the problem is like there's not really many consultancy tools in general. There's not many platforms that people can run their whole business on. So people often find themselves like jumping between different tools. They might use Copilot for one thing, and then use Microsoft Word for something else, or um, have to do some part of it in person, write things down. They have a meeting, and then the notes are in a different app, and it's all over the place. So I'm really quite surprised that no one has really come into the market and built just a major consulting app, even just before AI came in anyway. So um, I think that's one of the massive efficiencies that we bring in as well, is that not only do we help with the consulting, but also before that, there's a whole CRM system as well. And we help people get clients as well. And because it's all in one streamlined process, then you can use new technology to be able to access any of that data very quickly, and ask questions about it, and just like enable yourself in so many different ways. I think I think the I think the biggest way to improve efficiency is really is through the business model shift. The old business model of time-based services, it's already been around for about 20, 30 years. So the way that um, the way that people can increase efficiency in that method is already like, it's harder and harder to find improvements, if you know what I mean. Um, so I wish I could give you, the secret to that, but um, it's just difficult if you're not using the productized approach.
I noticed you mentioned about the CRM. Does that mean that you also have a CRM system as part of your suite of services that you're developing and producing?
Yeah, that's correct. So we built a consultancy specific CRM, which kind of links into our assessment. So in the same, because we have these kind of productized assessments that can also be used to bring in clients. So for example, again, if you're doing assessments about if you're a consultant which helps people improve employee wellness, you could create an employee wellness assessment, and then on your LinkedIn you could share the employee wellness assessment, and then that could be used as a lead magnet for your company as well. So that means like, people can take the assessment. It takes about 5 minutes. They'll get a whole report. They'll get a load of charts and analysis that would normally have to be done manually by a consultant and wouldn't really be worth doing until it's a paid service. But through this method, the client can get an idea of what the consulting project will involve. They can even basically have a small version of it themselves for free. And on top of that, it's a way for the consultant as well to use it as a lead magnet, and then get people's details, which are potential leads, which they can go and follow up with.
Where would you say that? Because it sounds like you're starting with the surveys, the CRM. That's quite big already, right? Where would you see it going in the next few years then? Because like you rightly said, the use of AI, we're still at the early stages of it. And so we're still figuring out the good use cases and opportunities that we probably don't even know yet about. Where would you see things going for you in terms of the product and how it evolves and what it could do for people to transform the way consultants manage their clients well?
So at the moment in the market, there's a lack of standardization in consulting. So a lot of the knowledge is specific to the consultancy. So for example, let's say McKinsey have done thousands of projects. They're going to know things that the average consultant wouldn't know. But it does mean, say, if everyone left at McKinsey and then new people came in, that knowledge wouldn't be passed on to the new people. So what we're trying to do is implement a benchmarking system. So the AI itself can learn over time from consultancy engagements how to improve. And although that's like quite infeasible with LLMs by themselves, because to train an LLM would cost millions. What we're doing instead is creating like a knowledge base system and using knowledge graphs and other technical things to and it store the data in a specific way, where over time it can create a standardization of the different consulting projects is done within a specific niche. And in that way, a consultancy, like a client, can benchmark themselves. And eventually what that will mean is that, say, if I go back to the example of like employee wellness, it means that a client could take an employee wellness assessment and not just know, I'm good or I'm bad. They can compare themselves to other companies as well within the industry, and they can benchmark themselves. So they can say, I'm in the 23rd percentile within my industry. And then that then gives them like a much more, what's the word? Objective opinion on where they are instead of subjective, which is how consulting is done at the moment, really.
What about the fact that, so you mentioned something really important about the knowledge retention. So one of the challenges that many companies face anyway is you have lots of knowledge that's stored from people's experiences. They leave and they take that with them, and potentially files are missing as well with really good insight, and it just doesn't get retained or capitalized on it going forward. Is that something that you're seeing that you can actually solve for, and how does that look? Because from my perspective, data is paramount in terms of giving smaller and any size consultants or organizations a leg up and a strong USP. Retaining that data, the valuable data, helps them to be able to service their customers better. Do you think that, are you seeing that, and do you think that that's an important part of what your solution also can provide?
Definitely. So yeah, in the history of consulting, what we've seen is that as companies become more mature, they create a model to make the consulting a little bit more standardized, and that's called the maturity model. So they would take different elements of the consulting niche that they're doing, and then for each one they would provide a level and define it in a certain way that they understand from years of experience. But even once you have a maturity model, you could pass it on to someone, but they still wouldn't really understand it. It's not able to have enough information. It's not equivalent to like all the information that's in a consultant's brain that they will get from years of experience. So this maturity model is really just the first stage of our application. So everything we do is kind of built upon the maturity model. So yeah, when people first use our application, if they don't have a maturity model already, they can just upload documents about their organization or previous projects, whatever it may be, and we can actually create that maturity model for them. So typically this would take, years of experience to be able to create this. And with AI, we can just sift through so much data, create the maturity model for them. And that's actually the basis of all of the analysis throughout the assessments. And it's the basis of also how the AI helps you create the assessment. It's the basis of how the AI makes the report. So like at a minimum level, we have that already sorted. And then from there, we're also going to move on to the benchmarking as well, as I mentioned, where all the data from the new engagements will be utilized by AI as well to improve the model over time. And then consulting will be even more standardized. I think what would be really cool is if we standardized it across lots of consultancies, which is what I would like to do. But again, that's quite difficult, keeping data anonymous, and some companies don't like to share between their competitors. But I'm excited to see where that one goes and what we can accomplish.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think the fact that you can utilize it to build a history and background of that particular company and its engagement or its clients, to see how it can better improve them and improve the services of the of consultancy. That in itself is really beneficial because that information isn't usually readily available. It's usually quite manual, as you probably know as well, and it's hard to get that and standardize it. And so we can compare past performance with future expectations. So it sounds as though you've got a way forward to provide that to people, to clients, to your clients, so that they can actually benchmark themselves against their performances and their clients' performances to help them to continually improve as well on the findings, which is really good. Great. Do you know what? One of the things I get asked about a lot is about AI tools and services that are increasing efficiencies, but what that means in terms of headcount, what that means in terms of people's roles. And whilst I genuinely believe that in the consulting space, or even in the delivery space, the product delivery space overall, it's very much a people-oriented type of industry. So we deliver with people, through people, and for people. However, we use technology as to our advantage to help make that experience as effective as possible. That's my view of it anyway. The point I'm trying to get is I get concerns from multiple people about tools that are there to make life easier and reduce workload could also mean that there's less people required to do the work. What's your take on it in terms of what the future looks like and whether we should be embracing this or whether we shouldn't be embracing it, and what it looks like in terms of people's I guess role, job safety, and even job satisfaction?
Yeah, it's a really important topic, and it's something that's not just affecting consulting; it's affecting a lot of other industries at the moment. I think initially there was a lot of pressure on jobs in general, so we were seeing like the Big Four stop hiring younger people, stop taking on apprenticeships, and let a lot of people go as well. And because, as you say, AI could do a lot of the work, but in my opinion, it's just a transformational shift that we're seeing at the moment as consultancies, find their feet. What we're kind of seeing is more people are opening their own consultancy as they're being let go from these larger firms. And there's a lot more scope for them to start their own consultancy now because AI is actually enabling them to do a lot more than they were able to do before. Whereas typically they would have to, consultancies are very large. They have HR departments, sales departments, all these different things. It's now much easier for one person to be able to take on all of those different roles. So in that way, it's much more of a transformation. And even in the large companies like in the Big Four, whereas typically they would use an EM+2 model, where they would have like one manager, two junior analysts, and the junior analysts would do the brunt of the work. Obviously, with AI coming in, you don't really need those analysts anymore. The manager can do it themselves. And people have been saying, how can I get into the consulting industry? They're not hiring, jobs are being let go, and it's very worrying. But it's really just a transformation, and the bottom role, instead of being an analyst, is now a manager of AI. So I think we still need managers to manage people, but at the bottom level, people will be managing AI. So the role has just changed. The role's changing, the industry's changing. But I think at the moment now, we're starting to see the other end of that, where things are actually improving quite a lot, and demand for consulting is going up, and the consulting companies are starting to recover.
Oh, that's great. It makes sense. So that brings a couple of things into my mind, or at least one thing with two angles. What would you therefore recommend somebody, maybe in a more entry level consulting role, who probably feels the nervousness a bit more? What would you recommend them to get themselves stuck into in terms of learning and developing their skill sets in, versus someone in a more senior or managerial role? Because both roles will be impacted to some degrees, but potentially it's not clear what the impact would be. And there's a role for both roles, but there are also areas that they should maybe prioritize their learning and development in. What would you recommend for those types of roles?
I think most of the pressure and transformation is caused by AI. So everything really comes back to AI at the moment. What I would say is AI still can't do everything, and technology can't do everything. You need somebody, firstly, to operate it. And secondly, you just need people in general. Like, people like to sell, people like to buy from other people. Relationships are very important. So I would say, if you're a junior consultant, just focus on everything that AI can't do, especially because if you're only doing things that AI can do, you very easily can be replaced by AI. So things like for our product, we have like the assessment. So there's an aspect of interviewing people that can kind of be done by AI. There's also an aspect of analyzing large amounts of data, creating reports. These type of things are much easier for AI to do. But personal relationships definitely can't be replaced by AI. So I definitely recommend working on those. And then if you're a manager or like higher up in the business, I would say similar to personal relationships, you can take that a step further. And not just in AI, but we're seeing technology improve as well, and more things are moving towards social media as well. So I would recommend learning more about social media, posting on LinkedIn, creating a personal brand, and then you won't be able to be replaced by AI.
Very, very good sound advice, actually. Very good. And by the way, as a quick plug, if you're interested in building a personal brand, I've got a bunch of really good podcasts which are recorded recently. So feel free, anybody that's listening to this, have a look at them. They're golden. And some interesting points you just mentioned, Ikum. So for I had a similar thought, potentially less articulate, less well articulated as you, but building relationships is the only thing, one of the few things that AI is never going to really truly master, because it's not going to be human like we are. And so mastering that ability to build relationships, I think, is key in both sort of entry level and more senior roles. I totally concur with that. And I would definitely also suggest that's an area where people should really double down on prioritizing their efforts and times on those skills and building those proper, genuine relationships. The other thing that came to my mind was also about the fact that it's very evident AI is still early, and it's there as a tool and something there to help us to be more productive. So therefore, rather than shine away from it, the people that are most successful or likely to be most successful, likely to be in the future, will be those who embrace it and use it for their advantage, to their advantage. And that would also enable them to be more productive in what they're doing, very similar to what your services provide, which is enabling one or two people to do the work of potentially dozens of people. So if that's the case, embrace that and make it work for you so that you become more valuable as a result of your knowledge and ability to use such tools as the AX potentially. So I think you kind of talked about that, and those are the things that come to my mind as priorities that I would do if I was starting again in the field. Use those tools to my advantage so that I can deliver more with almost with less, really.
Yeah, I mean, I would even take that a step further, to be honest. I think improvements in efficiency are kind of a race to the bottom. Like, say, for example, if you're writing a report, it might take you, let's say, 10 hours. If you were like magically super good at writing reports, maybe you could get it down to like 2 hours, let's say, or even 1 hour. But I would personally recommend doing things with like unlimited upside. So, for example, again, like with personal branding, if you made a YouTube video, there's no limit to how many people can get value from that video. So it's a whole different scale to just becoming more efficient. Whereas if you were making a YouTube video like tutorials, if you weren't doing on YouTube, what you might do is like sell it as like a paid service, so people can pay you individually and you teach them. But that, as I say, is like much less scalable and it doesn't have that unlimited upside. So I think you need to think like beyond efficiency, kind of just change your whole mindset. And really, if you do things with unlimited upsides, like time is not really that important either. So you might even find you don't even really need to work that many hours. You just need to set something up that works, and then it can scale by itself with very little work from you.
Yeah, really good. So do you mean unlimited upside in terms of creating a video once, and then that can be seen and value can be created multiple times for almost forever, really, because lots of people can see it at any point and you deliver that value even when you're not physically at your desk?
Exactly that. Yeah. I mean, that's like kind of the central point to us, like prioritization of consulting, is that people can create
Absolutely.
assessments, and then that can scale infinitely. Like any number of people can take it, and with no real added increase to the consultant, unless they wanted to, charge that on top, which is up to them.
Yeah, I think you're right. But one of the things I've realized as well is that, I don't consider myself, for example, a, a content creator first. It's something that I happen to do as part of my passion in my profession. And it's something I'm doing to leverage the technology that's out there to hopefully help and serve as many people as I can, because I only have a certain amount of hours in the day. And I think it's not something that should only be set aside for certain people. Everybody could do it, right? Anyone can do it if they really want to. And so I think I really did resonate with what you said. It's an opportunity to help others and create more value using technology without actually burning yourself out, so to speak. So yeah, that unlimited upside is something I would definitely take away and try and see how I can make more of that. um,
You're doing a good,
brilliant.
doing the right thing at the moment, aren't you, with the podcast and everything?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's a real passion, and it's something I'm really enjoying, and hopefully others are getting value from as well. Absolutely. So have you got any sort of closing um, questions for me based on the fact that that I work in the industry? That I do like weird and strange questions and difficult questions. So you've got a chance to do that before I give you the last word.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So what we're seeing at the moment is I'm speaking to people who are, using our product, and it's a bit of a biased group because obviously there are people paying for an AI product for their service. Like they need to have some cash available. So I'm not sure. Some people are telling me like demand for consulting is going down. Some people are saying, their business is booming and they want to use our product, etc. So I want to hear from you, like over the past year or so since AI has really made an impact. How has that affected your business, particularly in demand for consulting? And like, have you made any changes? Like, how has that affected your business model as well?
Oh, that is a really good question. Very good. I would say that definitely within the last 18 months, there's been a shift. There's been a change in terms of client behaviors that I see. Um, Many clients are still, I would say, lagging. Many industries are still lagging in that AI is something that's in a box that is there. They don't really know what to do with it, and maybe don't really want to open that box because it could be a can of worms. Um, but customers and businesses are starting to embrace it, mainly with the typical suites that you see with your ChatGPTs or Copilots and things like that, and starting to incorporate that in their just day-to-day productivity, which is great because it's a really good, accessible and trusted gateway to utilizing AI, which is brilliant. I would say in terms of what do what do businesses and organizations expect from their consultancies now in the advent of AI? I think it's still evolving, but I would certainly say the expectation is higher in terms of efficiency. The expectation is that the consultancies are experts in AI already. That's what I'm starting to see, and that's rightly so. It's a fair expectation. So what that says to me is that we need to, and certainly me, my roles, we need to be ahead of the game and prepared to understand what are the best use cases for AI to serve customers today, and that involves a lot of research, and also where is it going. So being a couple of steps ahead is paramount for anyone, in my view. That helps clients with strategic thinking, with delivering new technology and new innovation. So that's what I'm finding, and it's because our clients expect that. They assume that knowledge is there already, and so spending and investing the time playing with new tools, investigating, researching, it really pays dividends. And that's something that I try to do from time to time as well to make sure that I'm a step ahead. And I'd recommend other people to do the same.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. So I'm going to give you the last word then. What would you say to a potential prospective clients of yours, or somebody working in a consulting space, or even in a space where they're working in teams and they need to get real insights and real information out there to help them deliver on a project? What would you say to them they need to be thinking about in terms of um, the utilization of AI to help them So what advice would you give them in terms of how they might want to go about it?
Yeah, I would say like a lot of people are a lot of companies are quite open to paying for consulting and paying for like people's services. They might pay thousands of pounds for a service, but they often don't want to pay for like an AI tool. But the AI tool is often a fraction of the cost of someone's service. So I think when you think about it like that, when you think, oh, if I'm actually able to work, let's say twice as quick, um, it's kind of, and I'm a one man band. That's kind of like having another employee, basically. If anything, it's more efficient having another employee, because when you have two people working together, they have to like have meetings and discuss and like transfer knowledge with each other, and it can become inefficient. So I would say people in the UK as well are not that open to trying new AI tools or new things, especially compared to America. So I would say just try as many different tools as you can. A lot of them have free trials. There's a lot of AI tools out there, and even if you paid for all of them, it's actually it's a lot cheaper than hiring people. So you just need to actually go out and try it. And um, there's a lot of talk about AI, and not a lot of people are actually implementing much more than just using ChatGPT at the moment.
That's a really good way to end it, actually, because it brings it full circle for me. Because you talked at the start about delivering on outcomes, right? And the utilizing and just embracing the fact that AI is there as a tool to help you with the outcomes is a good way to realize there is value in it. Having some software that potentially replaces some of the work that could be done by dozens of people gives you the same outcome, and you're paying for that outcome, and actually it's typically more cost effective in the long run. And that's, I think, the way that people should look at it, across all industries, because that outcome is really what matters, and not the number of people you can physically see doing the work, right? So I think it's a really good way to end it. And yeah, thank you so much, Ikum. Really appreciate it, and always getting interesting, getting really good insights from you. And I hope we continue the conversations. Yeah, thanks again. It's been great. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, speak soon. Bye.